Hello and welcome back to anyone and everyone watching. It's time for another episode of Silly Season with Joe, my weekly off-season NASCAR news recap. This week, besides sponsor announcements, there's relatively little news from the Cup Series teams, but a jackpot for the Xfinity Truck Series teams, as well as for underfunded teams in general. One of the biggest updates to the 2023 driver lineup is that Greg Gaulding landed a full-time Xfinity ride with SS Greenlight Racing. If you've watched my video on the top 10 free agents heading into the upcoming season, then you know I think Greg Gaulding is heavily underrated, so I was pretty excited when that news broke, but more on that later. Anyway, getting right into it with some Truck Series news, there's announced that Mason Massey will be driving the full schedule for Reum Brothers Racing in the number 33 truck with sponsorship from Brunt Workwear. On top of that, the Reum Brothers team will now be teaming up with the Ford Performance Group to become the fourth Ford team along with Front Row Motorsports, Thor Sport, and AM Racing. While I doubt this will lead to any significant improvement in speed for Reum Brothers Racing, I think it will benefit Ford in regard to their driver development program, because just last year, the only two teams that ran Fords were Front Row and David Gilliland Racing. And again, Reum Brothers Racing will by no means be competing for wins in the foreseeable future, but now they can at least potentially field trucks for young Ford drivers that are looking to get experience before they go full-time. But now for Mason Massey. Mason actually got a start in the top three divisions of NASCAR with Reum Brothers back in 2019 when he drove for them in 7 races. That year, he scored 2 top 20s and a best finish of 17th at Pocono. After that, Mason moved up to the Xfinity Series where he competed part-time from 2020 to 2021, primarily for BG McLeod Motorsports. Then this past year, he attempted all but 6 races for DGM Racing in the number 91 car, and picked up his first 2 career top 10s, including a P6 in the Spring Atlanta race. Unfortunately, he failed to qualify for 3 of his attempts, but to be fair, his teammates Alex LeBay and Josh Williams also missed at least 1 race, so clearly his equipment was not the best. For 2023 in his new ride, I think a reasonable expectation for Mason would be to snag 1 or 2 upset top 10s over the course of the season, and to especially make the most of his super speedway races. Reum Brothers Racing also announced to be switching the number of their second truck from 43 back to 34. If I had to guess, the only reason they changed it to 43 last year was so that Richard Pay's grandson Thad Moffitt could use it in his select races with them. So with the return of the 34, I'd have to assume that Thad Moffitt will not be returned to the team this season. Next up in the Truck Series news, Bill McAnally Racing made it official that Chase Elliott will be piloting their Gates Hydraulics number 35 truck in the season opener at Daytona. Previously, Jake Garcia was announced to run full-time in the 35, but as he will still only be 17 years old at the time of the Daytona race, he'll be ineligible to compete. He will be 18 in time for the second race at Las Vegas, so although it's not an ideal situation for the young racer, this shouldn't affect the overall outcome of his rookie season. Speaking of young drivers, Taylor Gray, who will also miss the Daytona race due to age and eligibility, as well as Las Vegas and Atlanta, was officially granted a playoff waiver by NASCAR. So in other words, if Taylor wins a race in the regular season, or is one of the most consistent rookie seasons in recent history and points his way in, he will still qualify for the playoffs. Like Jake Garcia, once Taylor turns 18, he will compete in every race from then on out behind the wheel of the number 17 Tricon Garage Toyota. The drivers for the first 3 races are yet to be made known. Finally, for the trucks, it's announced that Lawless Alan will be returning to drive the Nice Motorsports number 45 truck full-time. In his rookie campaign last year, Alan didn't do a whole lot, to be honest, as he didn't have any top 10 finishes, and his average finish was a 24.2. But in his defense, it was highly speculated that Nice was only focusing on the 42 truck last season, and the other 3 full-time trucks, the 40, 44, and 45, were only used to fund the 42. Pretty much in every race with a 42 of Carson Hocevar was running inside the top 10, all of his teammates were back around 20th and 25th, struggling to stay on the lead lap. I'm sure some of the blame lies on the drivers, but overall I think Lawless Allen's underperformance was due to him being given a 20th place truck. So far, only Hocevar and Allen have been announced to return, so if Nice decides to downsize and only field 2 trucks, I think we'll see much more effort put into Allen's truck, and thus an improvement in his results, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Now for the Xfinity Series, first up, Joe Graf Jr. finally released his 2023 plans as he'll be driving the majority of the schedule for RSS Racing. Graf will have many returning sponsors such as Bucked Up Energy Drink, Cover Seal, G-Coin, G-Technic, and Jacob Companies. On top of that, he'll be teaming up with a brand new marketing partner, Lefcourt Brothers Racing. I'm sure many of you guys are already familiar with Graf's utter failure of a start in NASCAR with Richard Childress Racing, so I won't get into that in this video, but I have to say, in his time with SS Greenlight Racing, he hasn't done a whole lot better. With only 2 top 10s across 3 near full-time seasons for them, coupled with 17 DNFs due to crashes, I really can't say anything to justify that. No doubt the funding he brings will help out a small team like RSS Racing, but Joe definitely needs to start taking better care of his equipment and staying out of incidents if he wants to further his career in NASCAR. In our second instance of bushwhacking this week, it was announced that Tyler Reddick will be driving for Sam Hunt Racing part-time in the number 24 car beginning at Auto Club. At least in a scenario like this, Tyler will not be gifted any free wins like, say, the Hendrick and Joe Gibbs Racing Cup drivers driving for their own respective teams in the Xfinity Series. So far, the closest Sam Hunt Racing has come to victory has been with John Hunter Nemechek, who scored 3 top 5s across his 10 total starts for them. Last year, we saw Reddick win at Texas for Big Machine Racing, a team that I would say is of similar caliber to Sam Hunt's team, so I'd predict that Reddick will pick up another win this coming season. Reddick's performance will also be a good indicator of what Sam Hunt Racing equipment is capable of at its best, and it will measure out if his teammates Kaz Grella and Connor Mozak are earning their keep or not. More from Sam Hunt Racing, it was announced that Parker Chase will be returning part-time beginning with a season opener at Daytona. At only 21 years old, Parker already has a fair amount of success in road racing, but since 2020, he's been looking to expand into stock car racing. So far in 14 starts, primarily for Venturini Motorsports and the National ARCA Series, Parker's finished a best of second on 2 occasions, both of which came last year. In NASCAR, he's raced 4 times between the Xfinity and Truck Series for Sam Hunt Racing and Kyle Busch Motorsports, all on road courses, where he failed to get a top 10 and crashed out once. While so far Parker hasn't lived up to his team's standards, I think he's shown a good amount of potential in ARCA, and I'm happy to see him back with another opportunity for 2023. Next up in the Xfinity Series news, Ty Dillon will be back for a part-time effort with Richard Childress Racing behind the wheel of the Ferris Motors sponsor number 3 car. As Ty is the grandson of Richard Childress, he had a relatively straightforward path for him cut in his early career, as he raced for RCR full-time from 2010 to 2016. In that time, he won 9 races in the National ARCA Series, 3 in the Truck Series, and 1 the Xfinity Series. He also won the 2011 ARCA Championship in dominating fashion over Chris Buescher. Then after 4 mediocre seasons in Cup for Germain Racing and a rather disastrous season for Petty GMS Racing last year, Ty will now be competing for Spire Motorsports. I'd be shocked to see Ty run anywhere better than 25th on average next year in Cup, so I think it's a smart move for him to step back into the Xfinity Series where he'll actually be able to run up front. But then again, he already tried to go back to the Xfinity Series with Joe Gibbs Racing 2 years ago now, and that did not go as planned to say the least. By now, I think even if Ty is able to finally return to victory lane, he won't be getting any calls from any big teams because he's just been average for far too long. But regardless, I'll be rooting for him as I've been following his progression through NASCAR ever since his ARCA days. Coming from Emerald and Gaze Motorsports, it's made official that Brad Perez will be driving the Dakota race with more races pending on sponsorship. Helping fund this deal were Y Sand and Clay LP, Green Tech Energy, Victory Sim, and Apex Coffee Roasters. With a background in road racing and well known amongst fans for earning every opportunity he's gotten in NASCAR, Brad worked as a tire specialist for a variety of small teams before finally landing an ARCA ride with Josh Williams Motorsports in 2021. He drove once for them at Watkins Glen, where he ran near the top 10 before brake failure forced him to retire a little over halfway through the race. Then this past year, made his debuts in NASCAR were in 2 Xfinity Series races for Emerald and Gaze Motorsports and 2 truck races for Rheum Brothers Racing. He finished a best of 20th twice and a worst of 23rd. Other than 1 D&Q for MBM Motorsports in the Xfinity Series race at Indy Road Course, his 2022 season was a complete success and absolutely earned him more opportunities in NASCAR. Next up, Rajah Caruth, who already signed up for a full-time Truck Series schedule with GMS Racing, announced that he'll be also returning to compete part-time in the Xfinity Series for Alpha Prime Racing. In his 7 races for them last year, which were also his first 7 in the series, he did it all right, posting an average finish of 24.9, and with an outstanding race at Martinsville where he came home P12. Although his lap 1 crash at Pocono was a major blemish on his otherwise solid season, Rajah proved he's one of the best of the many Alpha Prime drivers, only maybe challenged by Stephen Parsons, so I'm glad to see him back in full force for 2023. Then, pretty much completely out of left field, it's announced that Dexter Stacey will be driving the MBM Motorsports flagship number 66 car at Daytona. If that name sounds slightly familiar, it's probably because he's previously raced in the Xfinity Series, but not since 2016. In 25 starts in this series, all for back-of-the-pack teams, he only managed to finish a high of 21st back in the 2013 Iowa race. In addition to his short time in Xfinity, he spent the majority of his racing career in NASCAR's Canadian League, the Pinty Series, where since 2009 he's competed in 73 races with a best finish of 3rd coming just last year at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. I have no idea how Dexter will do after so much time away, but as long as he avoids all the guaranteed carnage at Daytona, I would call his return a success. And lastly, for the many Xfinity Series headlines this week, and the one I hyped up in the beginning, Greg Galding will return with SS Greenlight Racing to drive the number 08 car full-time. While he had a slow start to his NASCAR career with average results for big teams such as Kyle Busch Motorsports and Roush back in the mid-2010s, Gray's done all he can to keep himself in the sport, as he has since competed for a multitude of backmarker teams in all 3 of the top divisions of NASCAR. Most notably was his only full-time year in NASCAR back in 2019 when he drove his SS Greenlight car to a 13th place finish in the final points. That season, he racked up 1 top 5, which is a runner-up at Talladega, 3 additional top 10s, and a rock-solid 16.0 average finish. But due to his lack of funding in 2020, he returned to a part-time status, but was even still able to score another second-place finish, this time in the Summer Daytona race. After a rough go with Jimmy Means Racing and Mike Harmon Racing in 2021 and 2022, two of the slowest teams in the series, it's great to see Gray finally get another shot. While I don't think he'll quite match his 2019 season for them, I think Gray will certainly do better than his rookie teammate Blaine Perkins, and I think both of them will far exceed the team's results last season with the team's former drivers Joe Graf Jr. and David Starr. But now, before covering the Cup Series news, let's go over a bit of ARCA news. First up, it was announced that Takuma Koga will be returning to the ARCA West Series with Jerry Pitts Racing. Last year, Koga, the only Japanese ARCA driver, had a career season, scoring 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and a 6th place finish in the points. Having raced in the West Series since 2002, he's the longest active West Series driver, so hopefully this year he'll finally get that long-awaited first win. Then the National ARCA Series, Joe Gibbs Racing announced that Connor Mozak will be driving the number 18 car, and all but one of the races that Williams Sawalik would be agent eligible for. Known for his road course racing abilities, last year we saw Mozak make his Xfinity debut for Joe Gibbs, where he ran the top 5 for a long time before crashing out late in the going. So far in ARCA, Mozak has made 11 National Series starts with the best finish of 3rd for Brett Holmes Racing last year. In my opinion, he'll need to win at least once this year if he wants to prove himself worthy of competing in top-level equipment in the future. For the final ARCA headline, Tony Cosentino revealed that he'll be running the full National ARCA Series schedule for his new co-owned team, Tamayo, I don't know how to pronounce it, Cosentino Racing. Previously, Tony's raced in 13 National ARCA events, all for fast track racing, and was able to net 2 top 10 finishes with the best of 9th in last year's Charlotte race. The new team will use the number 45, and according to them, their goal is to run the top 10 every week. I think that might be a bit optimistic, but who knows, there's a lot of good ARCA equipment up for sale right now for GMS Racing and David Gilliland Racing, so maybe if they have enough funding, they'll be able to get some good top-of-the-line cars. Now for the Cup Series, got hit with a pretty interesting story right off the bat. The 2018 Cup Series championship winning crew chief Todd Gordon will be coming out of his early retirement to become Jimmy Johnson's new crew chief at Legacy Motor Club. After the 2021 season, Gordon announced that he'll be stepping away from his role at Team Penske and has since worked for the Motor Racing Network as a race analyst. In my opinion, the experience he brings will be a great fit for the 7-time champ, but realistically, I don't think we'll be seeing Johnson run any better than around 20th on average. Next up in Cup news, I found out via the LA Clash entry list that JJ Yeley will be returning to the Rick Ware Race number 15 car, at least on a part-time basis. This one was pretty expected, but there was never any official announcement from Rick Ware Racing regarding their second full-time entry. I'm guessing 2023 will be more or less the same for the number 15 car, with JJ running the majority of the schedule, and various road course ringers such as Joey Hand taking over the road courses. And besides all the new sponsor and paint scheme announcements they'll go over next, the final headline this week from the Cup Series is that Chase Briscoe signed a multi-year contract extension with Stewart-Haas Racing. Although their second year together in 2022 was pretty average overall, with 1 win, 6 top 5s, and 10 top 10s, it was nonetheless a huge improvement from Chase's rookie year. Not only that, but the 14 team absolutely came out of nowhere in the playoffs, from looking like they'd be a guaranteed round of 16 exit going in, to making it all the way to the round of 8 and leading late in the final transfer race at Martinsville. After his 9-win Xfinity Series season in 2020, I knew it would only be a matter of time before he would start winning regularly in the Cup Series, and even with Stewart-Haas Racing's recent struggles, I think 2023 will be that year. My prediction for Briscoe is that he wins at least twice this coming season and once again at least makes it to the round of 12, but of course as an optimistic prediction, I would still call a season a success, even if he more or less is a repeat of 2022. The main thing the 14 team needs to improve, though, if they want to put themselves in the championship conversation, is becoming way more consistent during the regular season, as entering the playoffs in 2022, they only had 4 top 10s, and if not for their clutch playoff performance, their season pretty much would have been a failure. And now for all the new paint schemes and sponsor news for all 3 of the top divisions of NASCAR. Beginning with the Truck Series, we have Boot Barn returning to Front Row Motorsports to sponsor Zane Smith in 3 races, as well as Todd Gilliland in the Cup Series for 4 races. In Xfinity, Alpha Prime Racing and Ryan Ellis announced 2 more sponsors, Shine Water, who'll be on the car at Las Vegas, and 4 Loco, who'll be on the car at COTA. Circle will be returning to sponsor Daniel Hemrick's number 11 Colleague Racing car for 14 races. As already briefly mentioned, Ferris Mowers will be partnering with Ty Dillon and RCR and Xfinity, but they'll also be sponsoring him in Cup with Spire Motorsports. And now, for all the remaining Cup sponsors, the Georgia Peanut Commission will be returned to Front Row Motorsports to be featured on Todd Gilliland's car in both the Summer Atlanta race and the Fall Talladega race. Quincy Compressor will also be joining the team to sponsor Todd Gilliland for 3 races and Michael McDowell for 1. Solomon Plumbing will be back with the RFK Racing on Brad Keselowski's number 6 machine for 4 races. And lastly, Trackhouse Racing made 2 big sponsor announcements. First, the Worldwide Express will be returning to sponsor Ross Chastain for 19 races and Daniel Suarez for 2. And then the Kubota will be Ross Chastain's primary sponsor for 5 races and Daniel Suarez's for 1 race. Oh, and we're not quite done yet. Now it's time for the weekly conspiracy theories, or I guess just one this week, but it's a pretty big one, as Casey Mears might be making his return to the NASCAR Cup Series. Apparently, Mears just recently discovered he's only 11 races short of 500 Cup races, and because of his friendship with Jimmy Johnson, it's being highly speculated that he could put together those 11 races in the part-time number 84 machine in the near future. This reminds me of what Todd Bodine did in the Truck Series last year to get to 800 total NASCAR starts, and by the way, he went way above and beyond the 6 races for Homer Friesen Racing, scoring a top 10 at Darlington and an average finish of 21.2, after having not raced in any capacity since 2017, and at 58 years old. But for Mears, who hasn't raced in the Cup Series since the 2019 Daytona 500, and not full-time since 2016, I don't think we'll see anything impressive about him in the Cup Series. Save for maybe a great super speedway race, I would guess Mears would run and finish somewhere anywhere from 25th and back. But still, I think it'd be cool to see him return to complete the milestone, as long as he has the funding behind him to do so. But that is all for this week's Silly Season News. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Just next weekend will be the LA Clash, and a couple weeks down the road from that will be the Daytona 500, so the Silly Season is just about over. Up until the Daytona 500 weekend, still expect these Silly Season recap videos, but once the regular season starts, I'll have to come up with something different to replace it, so let me know what you guys want to see. I was thinking maybe I could talk about the big winners and losers of each series after every race, but yeah, just leave a comment down below if you have any other suggestions. And that's all I got to say today, so until next time, peace out.